Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Divine Intervention. I'm here with the lovely Tara Loftis. She's a hypnotherapist, a Reiki master, and she's the one who introduced me to Ashtanga years ago, which I'm super, super grateful for. And I have such fond memories of your teachings and your classes.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
So in addition to all of these wonderful things that I just mentioned, Tara is also heavily involved in plant medicine and hosting ceremony. This space that we're in today is a space where she held the container for a super beautiful mushroom ceremony I attended 3 years ago that completely transformed and changed my life. And so I would love to just start off on the topic of plant medicine and how you got into that and the ways that has shaped who you are. And
yeah, absolutely. So I got into plant medicine. Well, I owned a yoga studio, and there was a woman who was traveling and she needed a space to hold a cacao ceremony. So she came to my studio, and we were getting ready for the cacao ceremony, and she said, "Hey, this weekend I'm going to an ayahuasca ceremony. Do you want to go?" I was like, heck yeah. I've always heard of Aya, but like never never participated in it. So I wasn't prepared in the sense like you're supposed to do a dieta for 2 weeks and all of this, and I kind of like wasn't really that prepared. But that was my first sit in that space, and like the first moment I drank the medicine, the message I got was, "Oh, you've done this before. I have done this before." And like I knew the medicine, and it felt like I had just come back to it from a previous lifetime, being in those same spaces, perhaps even sharing it. And so that kind of started me off on that path. And I then, probably a couple of years later, did a San Pedro ceremony, and then another Aya ceremony, and then eventually got to the point where I was doing ayahuasca multiple times a month. I was traveling with some curanderos, some healers from Colombia who were sharing the medicine in the New Orleans area and Texas and Florida. And so I started studying with them, and I learned about Kambo, and I learned about Rape and Sananga and Yopo and all of these things I had never heard of in my world, and Bufo, woo.
Ooh, I haven't gone down that rabbit hole yet.
Yeah,
but it's definitely
very powerful, very amazing stuff. So it just opened my world to that whole realm, and I was like, this is part of my path. Like, I'm on it.
Wow, that is so inspiring. Like, wow. I remember I've only sat with ayahuasca once, but I remember when I was under the medicine, this sense of home, like that returning back to, I was like, whoa, I feel so comfortable in this space, more comfortable in this space than in regular 3D.
Same.
Yeah.
Same. It does feel like home, and like, it feels like you really connect to yourself, like in a real spiritual way, and to those in the circle with you who are also doing this really hard work. People always like give me a hard time, like, "Oh, you're going to trip in the woods." It's like actually really deep, intense work. It's not like super fun, to throw up or like purge in whatever way and feel uncomfortable and feel nauseous. Those aren't like, I'm not chasing that high, and then more often than not, I'm experiencing those difficult times, in the medicine more than like a lot of visions and things, But the thing is, through those difficult times, I get the healing. Like, I get the, it's like growth does come from challenges, and it really puts you in a challenging space a lot. So, so anyway, I feel like that's been the most healing practice that working with these different medicines has been the most kind of healing thing I've experienced in this lifetime. So other than my Reiki practice, which has been like a daily thing, but that plant medicine has been very profound.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
I feel that way about mushrooms too. I feel like it's so important to be intentional with anything you're consuming, digesting, it's medicine, TV, media, regardless of what it is. but especially with medicine, because you're either abusing it or you're using it as medicine, you know? And so like with mushrooms, I think when people tell me, oh no, I had a bad trip, I'm not going to do that again. I'm like, that is the medicine. Like that's what you needed. And kind of like redeveloping your relationship in a way of, well, for me, I used to partake in a lot of party drugs, and then I stopped abusing those things, and I started being more intentional and wanted to experience the magic and healing benefits of these plants and what they have to like offer in those types of ways. Like it usually is rough, and it's showing you something that you are uncomfortable with facing, that you might have been, pushing away. And
absolutely. So not only do you have that aspect where it's like, you're facing maybe some shadow stuff, and like you're seeing things from a different perspective, and you're like, oh, that was my part in that situation, which can really bring a lot of insight and healing. But also, they say that a one night of ayahuasca ceremony is like 10 years of therapy, because you go so deep. And so you really come out of it, no matter like from what I've experienced, and everyone has a different experience, but from what I've experienced, no matter what, I went through during the ceremony, I come out feeling good, like lighter, and also just more connected to like just universal love. So that's kind of like the flip side. So yeah, you go through the shadow stuff, but you actually come out and you just feel so blissful, and it's such a nice way to like move in through, to the rest of your life as you integrate that experience. I don't do plant medicine as much anymore. Like it's once a year, maybe, at this point. Kind of just depends on what I'm going through. But at that point in my life, I was doing it pretty regularly. And also I, went to study how to make the medicine. I lived in Ecuador and was working with a shaman there to learn how to make it and how to serve it. So kind of went through this year-long program where we studied it, and we sat with the medicine by ourselves. So we brought medicine home and had monthly sits like on our own. And so that was also, a different kind of way to experience it. But
yeah, the word interconnectedness. Like it wasn't until I really deep dove into mushrooms did I realize how connected we are to everything in the universe. I was like, whoa. Like I met this new level of like knowing God. It was like I had never known God that deeply until I went deep into mushrooms. And it's like dissolving this illusion of isolation. Like that's what mushrooms really help me do. It dissolves the illusion, and without going through integrating everything you experienced through your journey, then you're probably going to go back to it. And that's not the point, It's like anytime you take medicine, you're not trying to just treat the symptom. You're trying to take care of like what the root cause of any issue is that you're working through. And that happens through integration. And I have been sober for some time now too. This morning I microdosed like the tiniest bit of mushrooms, and it's the first time I've had mushrooms in over a year. And I do think my personal end goal, I want to just have this healthy relationship with medicine in a way of like, I'm not an advocate for prescription medicine. If something's going on, I'm like, give me ayahuasca. I don't want to go to a hospital.
Yeah. I'm the same. Yeah. Like all the, I'd rather try all the natural healing methods for, whatever it is that I may be facing, and understanding the physical connection to whatever's happening mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, because a lot of times the physical stuff manifesting in our bodies is, most of the time, it is something that's going on a emotional, mental or spiritual level. So
Absolutely.
you have to like try to understand the connection and work on, like you said, the root of the problem, which it might be that you need to be more connected to your divine self. So a spiritual thing, it might be that you need to let go of something that happened emotionally, some traumatic thing, or have some more like care for your mental health. So
Yeah.
and the studies that show that talking to yourself, like there's a lot of studies coming out right now that talking to yourself, telling your body it's safe and it's healthy and it's okay, does so much more for inflammation than we ever understood, or whatever, you know, your diagnosis is. And that's like massive, you know. This is why I love like hypnosis, because we work with the subconscious mind. So
yes.
Yeah.
And I'm not certified in hypnosis, but I've been teaching yoga nidra for a couple years now. And it's kind of like in between a guided meditation and hypnosis. And you don't want to fall asleep. You want to access the theta wavelengths in your brain. And it is all about reprogramming your subconscious mind, because there's so many like memories and hidden traumas buried deep that you aren't even aware of, like, until you go deep. And I also love breath work for that reason, because it's not using anything like outside of my body. I'm not depending on a substance. Rather, I'm trusting in my body's innate intelligence and wisdom to heal itself.
Yeah.
And I definitely do think a lot of physical illness, especially in America, is a metaphysical, you know, situation. Like it's trauma that is manifested into the physical form. And so if people could come back to their relationship with themselves, their bodies, what they're putting in their bodies, especially with food. And I think there's this crazy thing happening right now in this country where, oh, you're not going to take our pharmaceutical drugs that are like in pill form. Okay, we're going to inject it in your food now, and you're not even going to know, because we aren't legally liable to even tell you.
Yes.
I'm telling you, everything within me, like, oh, especially after learning how to organic farm.
Yeah.
Something in my soul knew you need to go learn how to organic farm.
Yep.
Like there's something for the future that you need.
Yep.
And here we are today. It's literally being released like in California. These ways that they're manipulating us.
Like big pharma is very, very, very corrupt. Very corrupt.
Especially in New Orleans. Like, remember the crisis after Katrina with the opioid epidemic?
I wasn't here then, so
Oh my God.
I wasn't familiar with that.
There's this great documentary.
Yeah, so when it comes to like plant medicine, you know, especially for anyone watching who's not too familiar, I would say, you know, just be discerning on who you sit with, because I've had a lot of different experiences, and I've heard a lot of different experiences about people serving medicine who actually have not been through the proper process and, you know, are not really like in integrity with the medicine. It's like I think it's really important to kind of do word of mouth when it comes to that. Like, don't do an internet search or whatever, but also just, besides word of mouth, try to get more information about the healers that are providing the ceremony. I mean, you know, the thing is, these people are human, so any shaman, curandero, like person who's coming to serve the medicine woman, medicine man, is going to have their own faults. So it's really important just to keep that in mind and not put them on a pedestal as well, because that's also something that happens a lot in the medicine community.
And so how do you personally go about holding a safe container when you do host plant ceremonies? So
I'm not ever serving the medicine, but you know, when it comes to like being of support on the support roles, I have a really good ability to read the room and the energy in the room. And just to give you an example, there was a ceremony that happened where the couple that was hosting, they went off and they fought. You could hear them fighting in the middle of the ceremony. And so my like, I could tell something was off just with the energy read, but my response was to like get my harmonium out and start playing like a really loud and like powerful song. I got messages from people afterwards. I got feedback like, thank you for doing that. I was in a weird place. And it's because if the people at the altar are not holding a safe space, or like are not in their own integrity, then it's very easy for that energy to be received and to, for energy to leak. So I just really try to like stay in my own integrity, check my own ego, like it's so easy to get caught up in ego, just as human beings. So I'm just always trying to like be the best version of myself. And I think when it comes to having a sacred space is letting people have their experiences, and also just being aware of anything that might be negatively impacting others.
Yeah. I remember when I was here at your house and I was in that mushroom journey, I felt super safe, and I'm so glad I was, because I went so deep. I was like no longer aware I was in a physical body whatsoever. And yeah, we had blindfolds on, so that helped. But you definitely like prepared the entire day to a T. We started with outside yoga. We fasted beforehand, and just super intentional about, like, this is a sacred space. This is a sacred ceremony. This isn't just like we're having a party. Like, we're here to like heal some deep stuff, and every single person in that circle was going through something really heavy. And so, yeah, I appreciate you so much for being a safe space, because it wasn't long after that ceremony that I did sit with ayahuasca. And, we're all protected in our own ways. But I put myself in a situation with a shaman that maybe had the biggest ego, like,
He's
ever.
not a shaman, by the way.
He's not a shaman. Yeah, and we're not going to name names. We're not naming names, but this person, claimed to be a shaman and didn't have like any strict dieta at that time. Like, I definitely was kind of like acting on compulsion. It's like my intuition knew I needed to go, and I don't regret going. That night and that experience changed my life forever. It led me to the series of events. Did I tell you this already? Where like I met a woman there who brought me to a lawyer who like unsuspended my license for free practically in order for me to get my passport on time to go to India, which I already had the whole trip booked. I had like my plane tickets to go, everything, the hotels were booked, and I had no passport. And this woman that I met was like, here's this man, and he wakes up every day and he just like follows his intuition and does what God tells him to do. And he felt compelled to help me. I got my passport in my hand, I'm telling you, 48 hours before that flight took off to India. So that was wild.
That's so cool.
But yeah. Be really careful about who you trust, and
you're also gonna, just find, if you do open up to that world, that like some people you resonate more with than others, and that's okay too. It's like no shame. It's just, some yoga teachers are more your style, right?
Yeah.
Or massage therapists you like more. It's just kind of the same thing. People in the healing arts, you're drawn to whoever you're drawn to for a reason, and so and you can flow in and out of that resonance, which has happened a lot with me. So
yeah, a lot of people who are trying to present as like a shaman or like this healer, it's this power like dynamic almost, and you need to be careful about people siphoning your energy. Like I have experienced this many times in the spiritual community where I'm drawn to someone, and I don't know, like maybe that needed to happen because I had them on a pedestal in my head and I needed to see them as human, and I definitely saw the human in them, because it was like, wow, you didn't have my best intention at heart. And it can be, I don't know, it's just like, trust the medicine, trust yourself, trust that you're guided and protected always, and also use discernment with any type of like healer, teacher that you're going to, because at the end of the day, you are your most important teacher and your biggest like role model, mentor. Like the mentor you're seeking is usually yourself.
Yeah, and I would add healer to that. Like, we are our own healers. We all have the ability, like our body has the ability to heal. It's just a matter of us opening up to it. So a lot of times, like as a hypnotherapist, for example, I'm not doing the healing work. I'm facilitating it. I'm opening the door for you, you know? And the same thing with Reiki. Like, you're allowing yourself to go there, whether that's like in a deep meditative state or whether that's like to have an epiphany, and you're the one that's coming for, you know, the very purpose of me just holding the space and opening up for you. So I don't consider myself like I'm a healer and you gotta like come to me for healing. It's like everyone has the ability to heal. It's just a matter of maybe meeting someone who's able to hold the space, because sometimes we need each other to point out things or to like help each other along the path. And the medicine's the same. Like, you have a relationship with the medicine. The shaman's not like necessarily healing you. It's your relationship with the medicine.
They're presenting it, they're giving you the opportunity to use it in like this safe or this contained space. That's what a container is, right? It's like this space where you can go deep and know that this person's acting as a guardian to support you through the journey that you're going on. But it is a solo journey, no matter who's by your side. Like I was saying, I left my physical body for hours when I was here in this house. Like, it didn't matter how many people were around me. They were gone, and everything I went through was just me and this bigger power. I remember I was begging. I was like, don't let me go back to the 3D, please.
And stay in this juiciness.
Oh my gosh, I was like, don't make me go there. I'm done. Like, I know I don't belong there. And they were like, no, you're going back.
We need you there.
You aren't done.
We need you there.
And then that was the first time I started journaling. And like I mentioned on a previous podcast episode, like sometimes when I'm writing, I don't really know what it is I'm writing. I'm learning it as it's coming through. But 1,000,000% that day, that was happening to me. I don't even know how my writing was legible under that big of a dose. But I later I finished the whole journal.
Wow.
And I went home and I was like, I still reread it to this day. And it's amazing advice that I needed to hear from like this bigger source energy that was like, this is what you need to focus on. This is how you're going to get through this really hard time in your life. So yeah, that was really beautiful. So I'd love to switch gears to the topic of romantic partnership.
You're never alone if you like the company you keep. I've found that you can really not feel so lonely when you're alone, right?
Recently, we were catching up, taking a walk at the park, and you were telling me how you've experienced a lot of intervention in your life through relationships. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I always like to joke that, you know, I've been dating for, 25 years or so now. So I feel like I've earned a PhD in it, you know? Like, so I call myself, like, Dr. Tara as a joke because, like, really, I've learned so much about dating and about myself through dating. And you know, one of the biggest things is just this understanding that, like, you know, rejection is God's protection. And I have had a lot of rejection in my life when it comes to dating, and a lot of just really disappointing endings of relationships where, you know, I had one boyfriend that we were living together, and he just one day left without even a conversation. He was like, I can't do this anymore. And there had been no fights leading up to it. There had been no like trying to work through it. I was completely blindsided. So
it's like death.
Yeah, it's like being discarded that way is exactly like losing someone I felt like I'd lost my best friend in a car accident.
Yeah.
That's how like, you know, fast and tragic it was.
That's kind of what I was going through before I came here and did the mushroom ceremony. Yes. I dated a really old friend of mine, and it ended tragically and like extremely unexpected. And I felt like, whoa, I'm grieving not only my partner, but this best friend that I've had my entire life.
That's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really hard, and it's through those, like, that grief is real. Like, that is very intense, that grief. And you grieve the life that you imagined with that person. Now it's been a couple of years, and there are still times where I'm just like, wow, I miss this or that about that person, and because grief is an ongoing process.
It comes in waves.
Yeah.
And it's like right when you think you've done it all, and you're like, well, I really faced every single inch of this situation, something else, it'll come back.
When I look at any relationship I've been in, I'm so thankful that I didn't end up with any of the men that I've dated, because I wouldn't have been really in a happy or healthy relationship. There were like definitely issues that were either just toxic, and there were things that we weren't aligned on in a big way, like spirituality. I feel for me it's important that somebody has the same views spiritually as I do, just that we're all connected, that God is love, that there's not one way to God, there's many ways up the mountain.
And do you operate from your intuition? Because I can't submit to my like full feminine and really relax if I don't trust you to be like listening to your voice within and going off of that as you go through the world and you make decisions. And like now that we're together, like every decision each of us makes has an impact on each other.
Yeah, exactly.
So like, are we operating from the same moral compass?
Yeah. And that's why, as I've gone through so many different breakups and situations with men, it's really just brought me back to a stronger sense of myself. Like each breakup always brings me back to self, but then also gets me very clear on what I want in my partnership moving forward. And like, we were talking the other day about how like, oh, this last guy I dated was just one step closer because he had XYZ qualities, and like one step closer. And like, I said, universe, I'm done with the stepping stones. I don't want to take any more steps. I don't want to.
We don't need any more lessons.
Yeah, I'm over this. I'm like ready to have divine partnership or nothing at all.
Yeah. Yeah, and you deserve that.
Right.
Yes.
We all do. Yeah, we all do. And I think the dating world is really, really tough right now. Really, it feels like there's such a big shift in dating, like in the ways that, women were courted, and in the ways that, we grew up believing whatever from Disney movies, which I'm not saying that's healthy, right? But that kind of gave us an idea of like what to expect as a kid. And like now we have to unlearn that. And like, and in the ways that women were allowed to have emotions, but growing up, my generation, men were told not to cry and not to experience emotions. So when they are faced with something emotional, they just don't know how to react or handle it, and they a lot of times run away. I mean, just speaking from my own personal experience, not every man is like this,
But we're all suffering. It's not like, oh, it's just like the women can't find the right men. Like the men are suffering too, and it is the slow progression of switching roles. I am so happy with where women's rights have come as far as like being able to actually work and be independent and like build our own lives without this like, oh, I need a man to survive. But now it needs to be balanced. It's like I see it in my dating life where, okay, I know how to completely take care of myself 1,000,000%. I don't need anyone to survive. So unless you can come into my life and know that there's nothing you can give me that I can't already give myself, yet like that could be scary for a lot of guys. I see a lot of guys intimidated by that. They're like, what do you mean you don't need to rely on me? And like it's forcing the relationships to really be equal now, because it's like no one person is fully relying on the other.
I totally hear that. And I think, there's this funny dance right now between the masculine and feminine, responsibilities, expectations, or whatever, because like you said, women can do it all. we can own a house on our own now. Like, we don't need a man for all these things anymore. And so men are being asked to step up their emotional safety game. So they need to make a woman feel safe with her emotions, and like she can come to them with whatever she's going through, and it's not going to create any like abandonment or, you know, avoidance that are such common reactions. So there's this funny dance between like the woman having kind of, you know, what has traditionally been a masculine role of being able to provide for herself and still needing the masculine, you know, side of things.
My personal take on it is going back to the word container. I see a healed masculine and feminine as like the masculine is acting as the container for the feminine to like grow into and flourish and kind of like take whatever form she wants, because we're so expansive as women. We can expand into like any and every realm there is, like with our creativity. And I personally want a healed, healthy masculine in my life who can see that, respect that, isn't scared, isn't trying to tame me, and will like be there to hold me without judgment, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, I know you're not going to leave. I know you have no idea what to expect most of the time, because that's just the nature of a woman. We're wild. Like, the feminine's wild. You can't tame the feminine. Yeah, but like still showing up with that like sense of like armor and stability of I have this safe space for you to feel free to like go as deep as you want.
Yeah.
Through my dating experience, I've realized that the way I want to go about choosing my life partner is through awareness and not my woundedness. And so I'm constantly scoping out, like, is this person a repetition of a million other guys I've already dated? Is this something that, you know, you're at the point now where it's like you can just see very clearly?
Well, it's funny you say that, because my most recent relationship we ended about 6 months ago, and as I'm processing that, I'm going, how the hell did I think that man was healthy, was mature, was like all these things that I, you know, believed him to be? And so on the one hand, I want to say yes, I'm at that place where I'm like scoping, and I am more discerning now about who I give my energy to, but at the same time, there's perhaps, you know, like that guy there was another lesson that I needed to learn. And I believe that a lot of times in our relationships, you know, we are mirrors for what trauma needs to be healed. And, you know, I guess I learned something. I'm still figuring out what that is. You know, maybe it's the way that I need a masculine, like my partner, to hold space when I'm upset. You know, maybe I learned that, you know, if I still have the ability to get pushed to a certain point where I can raise my voice, which I thought I had tamped down, because I've been in a relationship where I wasn't raising my voice.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm like, wow, I still have that in me. And it's like, I know what I need from so I think maybe showing me like, hey, you still have this anger stuff. You still have this learned behavior from when you were a child and your parents like fought in front of you. And then also, you know, you also need a man who can hold space for that, and like calm you if that feels like it's rearing its ugly head, because, you know, I'm not perfect, like I am human.
So we can self-regulate and learn how to do that, which is important for any healthy relationship. But then it's also just one of the roles we play in these romantic relationships is we are helping our partner regulate their nervous system.
Yeah.
You know?
But as I like start to tiptoe back into dating, which I'm not on any apps right now, and like I'm kind of, you know, really not ready quite yet, but as I start to tiptoe back into it, I can see like immediately red flags. And like it's more than I've ever seen in the past. Where in the past I've been like, well, yeah, I mean, he's a little bit older, but like, you know, he still has these great qualities, and he's on the medicine path too. And like I can start ignoring the red flag. Like in the past I would start ignoring red flags, and now I'm like, whoop, he's 16 years older and that's way above my limit, you know, or like he said he, you know, is a vegetarian and now I'm watching him eat chicken. Like,
oh my God.
like, you know, like this last guy I dated who was on the medicine path and conscious communicator and blah, blah, blah. That's what he said, right? He's told me like, you know, sometimes in ceremony I pray with tobacco. Does that bother you? And like I might do it like a day or two after. Does that bother you? I'm like, no, I'm praying with tobacco. Like I've done that. Man was a smoker. He smoked daily, multiple times a day. But in his like presentation of himself, he like definitely did not convey. So that's what I mean. It's like I can see my red flag. I can see red flags more quickly and being like, no, you're a liar. Like, you know.
Yeah, your lie detector is.
Yeah, I'm very sensitive
up.
now.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that, you know, I have the luxury of having now after so much experience with dating. So.
Yeah. And I want to emphasize how you just said that, you know, you're not necessarily ready to completely put yourself back out there and it's been 6 months. That is so refreshing. Like, that is what integration, we want to talk about. Integration is not just medicine. It's everything that you learn in life. Every hard lesson needs a period of digestion and integration in order for you to move from a smarter place, or you will inevitably repeat the same lesson. It is like life is cyclical and it's not like this, it's actually like this. And so when you're saying, oh, I'm getting the red flag sooner, it's like because you're getting the cycle's like narrowing and you are coming.
Oof, I just got chills
towards that.
Yeah, I really feel that. And you know, Lexi, like I was in the past so quick to keep my heart open and find love again, and I've always prided myself on having an open heart and like I'm not giving up on love, and that was always my mantra, you know. And so, you know, I might wait 3 months, you know, but I would get into something quickly, right? And I might, you know, start looking after a week of, you know, and I am so in a place of like I don't want any bullshit. So I'm not, you know, opening myself up to it. And I truly believe that, like, you know, in divine timing, that when it's, like, meant to happen, it will. And there will be, you know, a slower process of getting to know someone and everything. Mm-hmm. But I really think that it's true that after a breakup, it's good to take time. And, like, I had to learn that through years of experience. And, like, it's almost like I knew it, mm-hmm. but I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want to, like, try it out. And so, again, I repeated, like you said, the loop of dating somebody who was toxic for me, who was really, you know, who really, really hurt me on a deep level. Mm-hmm. So I encourage people to take time after, and that's one thing that I feel like men don't do. I'm sorry to generalize, but I've just seen it so much where they move on real fast, and you're like, wait a second, wait, did we mean anything? Did you actually love me?
I am very guilty of moving on quickly, depending on, you know, how serious it was. It took me a really long time to bounce back from that serious relationship with my old friend. Like, it took me so long to open my heart up. Like, I want to show up in my full honesty and truth, and I do have an open heart, but yeah, sometimes I do things that I know better. Sometimes I sleep with someone when I know better, not taking the time to get to know them before we get to that step, because then your chemistry changes and you get cloudy and fogged up inside, and you can't really, like, you can't discern as easily as before, because it's this
change,
primal thing that like kind of takes over, and there needs to be discipline and restraint, I think, when it comes to that, for me, just for the sake of, like, if I want to see something through, if I want something to really stand the test of time, then what am I rushing for?
And I echo that, and I think, like, you know, it's so funny because I was having lunch with a girlfriend yesterday, and I was like, you know, this is, you know, probably like one of my longest dry spells. I've had a couple of girlfriends say, just get a lover, and it's like,
but you don't want their energy.
I actually don't like that. Like, I really am very discerning about who I share myself with. I haven't always been. So there was a time, especially in my like 20s and maybe like early 30s, where I was just like, yeah, this guy's nice, you know, but now it's like sexuality is sacred to me.
Yes.
And I actually have to have an emotional connection with someone before I have the physical. It's very important. So,
and to go as deep as you really want to go, if we want to talk about like orgasms, like if you want to go into like this crazy dimension you've never been before, I need to meet you in like the deepest heart level. It's so interesting. Like the word holy has been coming up for me a lot lately. And it's like, I really think about being whole and complete, like on my own. And when I feel whole and complete and I enjoy my own company so much so, where you're saying like, I don't want to invite any bullshit. I am never going to be lonely enough to the point where I'm going to have someone else come with their bullshit just because it's like filling a perceived void. There is no void. That is an illusion. Like I am whole and complete on my own. All I want is for a partner who already has met that version of themselves to complement my life.
Yeah, like you're like, you're not having to like, change who you are. You're just like teammates and you're just moving forward in life together. And it's not like this, trying to be something, that you're not. And I love what you said about like not feeling a void, because like as little kids watching Disney movies where it was like, where's my Prince Charming? And like I had this really like warped belief about, how my love was going to happen, because I watched all these stupid Disney movies and romantic comedies about like, he's just going to be...
He's going to show up at the
doorstep. He's going to show up with his white horse and like ride me off into the sunset, and it's everything's happily ever after. And it's like, no, relationships are work.
They're the hardest work, because everyone's a mirror, right? Regardless if it's a romantic partner or your family. Like every single person you pass on the street, you go to work with, whoever it is, they are mirroring back to you what, like your internal world. Yeah. And so when you show up in a romantic relationship, that is the most magnified mirror. There's been years of my life wasted just sitting around waiting for someone to show up.
Yeah, it's so bizarre that is what we were taught, that, like that's what happens. But I do think like previous generations, men really did pursue women in a different way than they do now, or it's just like a finger swipe, and like ghosting on a text thread or whatever. It's my God. They would show up with flowers at the door and, take the woman out to eat. Like they actually like really tried in a different way than a lot of men do these days. And so I feel like we came from this world that was, first of all, very different in terms of like customs. But then we were also fed this BS about like the Disney fairy tale. And so as... Like
you don't need to become your own person because your entire life revolves around this person.
Yes, like when I was in preschool, and I remember James really wanted to be my boyfriend, and I didn't really want to be his girlfriend. And I'm like 4 years old, Lexi, and I get in the car with my mom, my older sister. My sister's like 8 years older, and they're like, why won't you be James's girlfriend? I'm like, I don't really want to be his girlfriend. No, I don't really like him like that. And they're like, just be his girlfriend, it doesn't matter. And that was the message I got, and then as a young girl, every person I met, do you have a boyfriend? Do you have a boyfriend?
Are you married yet?
Like, that was, like, the biggest thing growing up. I'm like, in elementary school, in middle school, in junior high, high school, do you have a boyfriend? So, Tara, I like, see family over Christmas for the first time in a while. So, Tara, do you have a boyfriend? Like, that was what they cared about.
Tara, what interests you? What pulls at your heartstrings? What about life is like getting you up in the morning and going, and like what books are you reading? Like
what's your favorite subject in school? Especially in the South, growing up in the South, it was just like you get married after, college to your high school sweetheart and life begins, and it's like, wait, that's just not my story. A lot of my high school girlfriends did get married pretty quickly after college, and they have families, and now I'm just like the one single friend of that group, and so
I think we're holding off for something fucking grand. Some people's journey matches them with their divine partner earlier on, but I am proud of the decisions I've made to not follow through with a long-term commitment with people I knew were not gonna be like the right match. A lot of time it was partners who weren't growing at the same pace or as committed to their own growth as I am. And so then I eventually would become like 3 different versions in the time that they became like 1. No, I would become like 5. And then I'm like, okay, it's not that I can't accept you for changing, but you're not. Obviously, I want you to change. I believe in evolution. I want us to keep growing. I want us to keep changing. And when we're not doing that at the same pace, it's like I feel like, whoa, you're way over there. And I'm holding myself back to be with you. I've experienced that so many times in my life. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, everyone has their own divine timing with partnership. And so, like, my high school friends, I mean, they're all happily married, and, like, they're, that's what their life was meant to be, right? And I feel like, of them, of that group of us, I feel like I'm, like, the more, like, woo-woo, spiritual, like, none of them have, like, ever done ayahuasca, or maybe one person has experienced Reiki, but they're not, like, into that, they don't do yoga. They're not into that. And I feel like when your soul is called to those things, it's, like, just, your path is a lot of times just different because it's, like, there's this really deep, like, growth that needs to happen, and maybe they didn't need that in this lifetime.
In this incarnation. Yeah.
And so they're, like, on their merry way when they're learning their lessons through their families, and, like, it's their path, and that's their, divine timing, and mine just hasn't been that, but it can feel a little bit like, what's wrong with me,
But we know that what we deserve is coming, and it's on its way, and time in general, the concept of time is so interesting, and like this phrase divine timing, it's like the certain steps that need to be taken and the certain events that need to take place before other things unlock. And like I kind of even feel like this podcast like journey in a way is a part of me unlocking, like having my partner appear in my reality, because I don't know, just like being vulnerable, putting myself out there. A lot of the reason why I felt compelled to come back from Hawaii was I was on such a tiny island and I felt lonely. I loved it. I loved being in nature. I love being with myself dearly. I love being by myself. I can hang out with myself all day. I fascinate myself so much.
I do too. I love myself.
I know. I'm like, I am so
I love who I am. I'm amazing.
Yeah.
It's such a good place to be. I've always been there, and it's like, I'm here, and like I just want to be alone and not have to deal with somebody's messy dishes and hair in the sink and not putting the toilet seat down. And I'm like, I love living alone. I love my space.
I want someone else to see my worth just as much, if not more, than what I see.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, and like in the way of like giving me praise as this divine feminine, like that they just have this understanding. There's nothing I can do that takes away any part of my worth, and so so I'm like, okay, I need to be out in the world to make myself like available for this person to find me. I was on this small island. No one could find me out there. There were like 3 options of dating people, and I'm like, it's not you, it's not you, it's not you.
Third time you're out.
So I kind of need to go somewhere, or maybe put myself on the internet.
There you go. You did it. It's really interesting that we talk about how much we love ourselves, because like I was on a dating app. This is a few years ago now. And, my description was, like, I'm really looking for someone who's into, like, similar things, like yoga and, someone who's on the spiritual path. It'd be great if they were already into, like, plant medicine, and someone who, will go to yoga class with me. Oh, another thing is, I've been vegetarian for over 20 years. Someone who, like, is vegetarian or, and this guy, like, I think it was Hinge, comments, like, sounds like you just want to date yourself. And I was like, yeah, actually, I would be such a great partner. I think I will date myself and take myself out to eat right now.
Right now. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, finding a compatible partner, who holds the same values as you, like the main core values. And of course, like, be your own, like, I would get bored if you were exactly like me. Yeah. But we have, like the same interests in the same categories, etc. So, I know you've traveled a lot in your life, and I kind of just wanted to touch on how much travel in general has changed you as a person, and what's maybe one of your favorite travel stories?
Oh my goodness. Oh wow, yeah. So I've lived in several different countries now. But I grew up traveling. My mom she owned a travel agency. So she got a lot of deals, so we would travel a lot. And that, she instilled the love of travel in me.
The wanderlust.
Yes, and I do, like, I have wanderlust. There was a point in my life where I wasn't any place more than 2 months. I would just pick up every 2 months and move. And that was one of the best, experiences I've had. And prior to moving to New Orleans, I really wasn't anywhere more than 2 years after college. I would just every 2 years find somewhere else to live. But New Orleans kind of sucked me in, like it does. But I think one of the best travel stories is I was on my way to med school. I was studying for the MCAT. I had done post-bac pre-med, so 2 more years of undergrad, doing orgo, physics, all of that, and I was like, because I knew I was like a healer, like I knew that I wanted to be in the healing, area of life, and so I thought I would, try med school, and I looked at the road ahead of me, and I was like, I do not want to do that, and so I followed through with the MCAT. I don't even know what kind of score I got. I don't even remember anything like that, but before I finished that, I decided to buy a one-way ticket and get a work visa for Australia. And I just took off. And I went to Australia and I worked for a little bit. And then I went to Bali. And then I was in Java. And then I was in Singapore. And then I was in India. And I was at an ashram for a couple. So it just was 2 years of... And when I was in India, I met one of my ex-boyfriends. And we ended up meeting up in New Zealand. Where we bought a van and traveled to New Zealand in a van. And that was like one of the most amazing experiences of my life. So yeah, that one was, yeah.
Oh my gosh. It's just like, it also reminds me of how much gratitude and appreciation I've had for these short-term partnerships, because like sometimes, I mean, having these different chapters with different beautiful people.
Yeah.
Has been such a blessing.
Yeah. It really has.
New Zealand in a van.
Yes. It was amazing.
Let's go.
We had not known each other that long, and we moved into a van together. So you can imagine, we didn't have community because we were in a foreign country, and it was just the two of us traveling around. So there were times that were really intense in that relationship. But it was also a really big love, I look back at that time and I just have really good memories, and, I don't feel any animosity about how, that whole thing panned out, but it was maybe get to know someone a little bit more, for more time than 2 weeks before you move into a van with them.
You're like, you want to see yourself? Here you go.
Yeah.
Bam. And then, India, I mean... I've left the country twice. India was the first time, and that place, just changed my life forever. Completely dissolved my ego in that moment. Oh my gosh, if you knew who I used to be compared to who I am now, there's a before and after India version of me. And just being so obsessed with yoga and wanting to learn, where all those traditions came from, and going straight to the birthplace of yoga, and then seeing so much poverty firsthand, I was like, wow, wow.
It's pretty impactful.
Coming back to the States and hearing people complain about the most friggin' mundane and not real issues. It's everyone needs to travel.
Yes.
Everyone does. Especially Americans, and which is not encouraged from a young age. I think from my experience, I felt like the government wanted us to always think we're better than everyone else in the world and we don't need to leave and we have everything here and don't go out, because they know once you go visit other cultures and you see other ways of life, it opens your mind to a whole new world of like, wait, you know what? Like, we could be doing things differently. And these fear-driven like stories that you're trying to sell to us to get us to buy into whatever war is, like taking place. It's just like, that doesn't work for me anymore, actually, because I've seen humans all over and I love people, and there's no label that you can put on another person that's gonna make me see them less than human being,
Yeah, and travel really does give you a greater appreciation for the luxuries in life. Like, I recently spent 6 weeks in Costa Rica at a plant medicine integration facility there, and like was the facilitator doing the yoga, and I was like staying in this really rustic cabin with an outdoor bathroom and like spiders on the wall and like lizards, and like literally the second night I was there, a lizard pooped on my face while I was sleeping, woke me up in the middle of the night.
A centipede bit me in my sleep in Hawaii.
Oh my gosh, no.
It's nuts. But
yeah, so when I got home, I was like, oh, I can sleep peacefully with no spiders above me and no lizards pooping on me. And it's like, it does actually give you an appreciation for, we're very fortunate here to be able to live the way we do. And
I can go get water out of the sink, out of the fridge.
Yeah. I remember when I came back from India, it was reverse culture shock.
Yeah.
I was on the train in New York and I was like, whoa, it's air conditioned. And the doors closed, like, because in India, it's open air, the doors are open, people are hanging off the train, like, there's no, like, it's chaos. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, and I wasn't sweating and uncomfortable, and people were pushing into me and, like, grabbing, and I got grabbed a lot in India, and I was just like, I remember having that experience of reverse culture shock, and I think everyone needs to experience that so they can appreciate how good we have it.
Every American needs to visit India. Yeah. I think so, too. Yeah. And I totally didn't know that's how culture shock worked either. Like, when I went there, I was like, oh, this isn't shocking at all. Like, I mean, yeah, I'm kind of like overstimulated, but other than that, I got used to it. I got used to all the honking and the constant noise and hustle and bustle. Then I came back here and I was like, I am not like taking this this transition, and it's happening now, not when I got there. Yeah. I was like, no one warned me for this. No one prepared me for this, but I'm so, so grateful for that experience. Yeah. And I definitely plan on continuing to travel and see how other cultures and other countries operate and study.
And there's like this beautiful quote that's something along the lines of, if life is a book and you don't travel, you're only reading one page. Oh. And it's like, it's so true. I mean, travel has shaped me so much to be a more compassionate person, more understanding of other people's cultures and different perspectives and, ways of living. And also, like I said, more grateful for the luxuries I have in life. And, it's just a game changer.
Mm-hmm. This has been so delightful talking to you, and I want to know what's next for you, and what do you see like in your near future happening on your life path, your journey? Like, what do you feel like you're being called? That is,
that's a really tough question for me right now. I have been in this kind of, I call it like a holding pattern for a while of like, I have a real estate business here with my family, and it's definitely kind of keeping me here in a sense. And my dream is to build like a kind of retreat center with organic farming and, living off the grid type stuff, solar panels and all of that, and to have a place where I can host healing ceremonies and whatever. And I don't know if that would be in the U.S. or abroad, but I tried to move to Ecuador to create it. I've also tried to move to California a couple times. So I feel like right now I'm just kind of in this holding pattern of, I don't know what's next. Like, I'm just open. Mm-hmm. And I'm, again, just trusting divine timing. Like, things will open up when they're meant to, but in terms of like, I'm looking at, the end of the year here, I'm like, okay, what do I want for 2026? I'm like, maybe I'll find my land, and like, that's what I, really want to focus on, is like finding, the place where I feel basically in harmony with nature and in community. So like, I would love to be in a place where I'm with others who are, working on the same kind of creating a sustainable living situation and a conscious community. I know there's one in Asheville that I would be welcome into, but
is there any like intuition going off that you're meant to do that around here?
I kind of sometimes feel like I should be doing that maybe on the North Shore or like just outside of New Orleans.
Yeah.
Just because my family's here, and like I think also as I'm getting older, I really love being closer to my family. Like when I was in my 20s and traveling all over the world, like I missed them at Christmas or whatever, but I wasn't like, I didn't need that constant connection with them. Like I feel now much more like I miss them when I'm gone. So yeah, I mean, and maybe it's, after the real estate thing plays out, I'll eventually find something. But right now it's like, I think I'm just going to be in New Orleans, teaching yoga, doing hypnotherapy, Reiki, and just being open to whatever comes up.
Yeah.
I don't really have any big plans in store. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. I mean, your plans are big plans. It's just like beautiful that you're super trusting in allowing them to reveal themselves to you in the way it wants to like be manifested. Me coming back here was not completely just about a partner, but also this pull of the same longing to be around my family and like my grandparents getting older, and just family is everything to me too. And then I come back to this narrative of, okay, I want to shit talk New Orleans and shit talk how toxic of a place it is, and I'm from here, so why am I expecting other people to clean up the mess? Like something deep inside of me feels like, yo, like you kind of have a duty to at least show back up for some amount of time and share what you've learned since you've been gone. So
yeah. I think that's true. Yeah, definitely.
So if you do that and it's around here, please consider me to play a role, because I'm 1,000,000%.
Absolutely.
And I'm just letting you know you're supported by me, and physically I will show up and help however I can. So
I appreciate that. Yeah, I think, like I said, I've been wanting to do that for a long time, and I used to be a little bit resentful of the fact that I had a real estate business here and I kind of needed to be here. And now I'm just like, this is fine. Like I have no like frustration around it anymore. I've kind of surrendered to it, and I think that that's like the key in life, is just to surrender to the process and surrender to, the good things you have in life, and let it flow. I mean, I also have community here. When I went to California last year, I was there quite a bit because I was dating someone from there, and like I didn't have community. I felt very isolated. I felt very alone. And I think at this point, that community is so important to me. But I really want to find a group of people who kind of sees life the way I do, because right now I'm around a lot of people who we have very different beliefs about, for example, the pharmaceutical companies, the stuff that's happening with our food, and I want people who have that like-minded, like I want to be in community, I want to have sustainability, I want to be off the grid, I don't want to give into this corporate or capitalistic
yeah, we're not giving up. Like there's no giving up. We're not in this.
I want to create a new world.
Yes.
I want to create that from my center.
Yes.
And that's like what I feel like, be the change you want to see in the world. Like I want to be that. And so it's just a matter of waiting for the resources to come through, waiting for like the dots to connect, and and I know that it'll happen eventually, but it's just like I think I've been impatient in the past with it. Just like, why isn't this happening? This is what I want. I'm so mad that like this isn't happening, and I'm like,
and then you kind of like,
okay, I'm here, like life is good, and I have a really supportive family, and if I want to go out of town, they'll watch my dog, or like vice versa, or like.
But you're not trying to escape anymore. Like, I think there's a point in life or a point in time where you realize like there's nowhere you really need to be other than just exactly where you are, and when you're okay with who you are and you feel whole and complete, you're not always like on this search for something to like fill you up. It's just like the work has been done. Be the change you wish to seek in the world. That was my high school quote.
Really? Yeah. That's cute. Oh, I love that.
So I'm not giving up.
Yeah, I really think it's important,
Yeah.
I just keep working on myself to like be more loving in every aspect that I can be, you know, and also forgiving, that's huge.
Mm-hmm. So I have one last question for you. When is it that you feel God's presence the most in your life?
Yeah, I knew this question was coming, so I like have my response here. So I have 3 situations where I really feel God's presence. One is like in nature when I'm just in it, and like that could be a walk in Audubon Park, seeing the sun shine through the trees, or like, when I was in Costa Rica, I was on the river and I felt God's presence all the time. Anytime I'm in nature, I feel it. Mm-hmm. The next is like when I am in service or I see others in service to each other. I mean, I feel like that is, such a divine act of love to be serving others, and that, it could be as simple as like, my stepdad mowing my lawn when I'm out of town, or my mom watering the plants, where they don't have anything to gain from doing these acts of service. There's no like recognition, there's no, but when you can like give to others, I feel God's presence a lot. Like I see someone opening a door for someone, or helping like an older person across the street.
Selfless.
Yeah, and the third one is, there are many times when I'm like on this like spiritual path, this journey, this like I call it like my earth school, the journey of my soul's growth, that where somebody will share wisdom that I feel like is just divine, and like I'll get chills, or I'll like feel some kind of like holiness from something that's shared with me, like I've maybe heard it through like Eckhart Tolle or like Ram Dass, these teachers who really feel like they have a connection. And also I have to say that when I'm cuddling George, I also feel divine presence.
Yeah, I mean, what is dog spelled backwards?
Yes.
Just saying. But yeah, oh man, I talk about Ram Dass constantly. Like, it is a life goal of mine to emanate that same energy that he did. It's like we all have the ability to be tapped in, but like to sustain that the way he did is just incredible, so admirable. So yeah,
I think animals are like are divine, and that's why I'm a vegetarian / vegan, because like I look at videos of like cows or lambs or whatever, and I'm like, how could you like harm that like beautiful being, like.
Or if you're not like doing it yourself in a very respectful, intentional way. So many people that eat meat have never even gone out of their way to like see the process. They don't want to see it, and it's just like you're willing to gain from this like sacrifice that you're not willing to witness, which is yeah. Well, thank you so much for this time and just your presence and sharing your wisdom and just being open with me and everyone else who listens. This has been such a gift, and thank you for having me in your beautiful home. Thank you, George, for making a beautiful guest appearance. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if this goes viral because of him. Can we hold you one more time?
Come up here.
You want to be
Come here.
spotlight? We're gonna end it the way we started.
And thank you, Lexi. This is not Thank you so much for having us on your show, and I love listening to all of your episodes. It's so fun, and just to see you kind of in your element and doing all this is just really beautiful and inspirational. I actually started thinking maybe I should do a podcast.
Oh my gosh, yes! The more the merrier.
Yeah.
Let's keep sharing this from this selfless place. Let's keep doing that.
Yeah.
Oh, can I give you a hug?
Yeah. Love you.
I love you too. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I just also want to emphasize how big of an impact and role that you had on my life, even in like a way that I'm starting to realize there's a lot of people in my past who just changed my life in like not subtle ways, big ways, but it was just like subtle little increments leading up to this bigger role that you've played. And like just through your classes, like taking your classes over time and seeing you as this amazing teacher, you show up for your students and like you leave your ego at the door, and that always really inspired me. And like I think this right here is a dream come true. I never imagined that we would be at a place of like, oh, you know, like years ago you were like my yoga teacher and I'm like, oh, she's amazing and she's like awesome and I want to be like her one day, and like here I am sitting next to you and having this conversation. It's like full circle moment. So yeah, just know these tiny things. I want people to be reminded that their tiny efforts and of kindness and goodness are like they really do come together and change people's lives. So
beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.